Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, September 11th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Ohio game in 2 days, the game against Michigan in 79 days. Today, we're bringing in Ross Fulton, the X's and O's guru from BuckeyeHuddle.com. And when we talk to Ross, we're sponsored by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation for today. All right. So Ross, on yesterday's show, we talked all about the Ohio State offense and its 70-0 win over Grambling, 70 points. Obviously a very good performance. 0 points on the defense. Also a pretty good performance. Can't do much better than that. Even scored a touchdown on defense. So defense finished +7 on the day. Pretty good day overall. So, I think not a huge surprise. They didn't show a ton of, they really didn't go deep into the playbook or anything, compared to, didn't break a whole bunch of new ground in that Grambling game. No need to break out new stuff. But they did do some different things from what they did against Texas, especially up front. And that was one of the things that you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, so I'm relying again on the charting from Tyler Maines at Almanac on X, which I highly recommend. But compared to Texas, you saw a lot more of the base over front. Ohio State's traditionally been a 4-down over team, meaning they're setting the 3 technique to the call. And then the Mike has the A gap inside the 3 technique. Compared to like the penny front, the 5-1, or what Matt Patricia calls it, a diamond. So I guess we could also use his terminology. But so, over front, they played it 45% of the time, which is a pretty significant jump compared to Texas, whereas the penny front was only 29% of the time. So, still being used. And then, within that, we can get into the coverages and pressure as well. But, starting with the front. The one thing I want to note is even though they're sort of back in some ways to the basics of what they've done in the past, there's also some variations, little subtle things within it that I think help solve some of the issues they faced in the past, right? So here we're looking again. So we got an over front. This is actually set to the run strength or to the boundary where the inline tight end is, away from the trips and the nickel. Usually they've set the over front to the field, so there's still some variation within that. But then one thing I want to note right away is that Ohio State's going to play cover 2 here. But one thing that they change about it is they run what's called a cover 2 invert. And so all that means is instead of the 2 deep droppers having deep halves being the safeties, they're going to have the corners do that. They flip the responsibilities. And all that means in the long story short is that now Jalen McClain, the safety, is responsible for that boundary C gap instead of having a corner, Jermaine Matthews, be responsible for it. So we've seen that in the past. Like we've talked about, one of the limitations of what Ohio State's done in the past is when you've had to have nickels or corners fill inside C gaps away from the passing strength. Talked about that against Oregon last year. Oregon hit a big run against them when Jordan Hancock had to fill a C gap. Talked about that against Michigan 2 years ago when Davison Aikbenosin in a similar setup had to fill an inside C gap. So again, just a little thing, but again, you can just see from the backside of the play here that 3 technique, as I said, to the field. Then you have to the boundary, 1 technique. So that's your basic over front. With here, the Mike is actually Sonny Styles because Arvell Reese is in the game. They tend to keep, when they bring in Peyton Pierce, they tend to keep him as the will linebacker, and they bump Styles over. He can play both. But yeah, so then to the backside, then you also see, a basic, defense against QB read or QB option concept with a scrape exchange. I guess one thing that is often talked about, like when defensive coordinators have been in the NFL for a long time, is like how they're going to handle some of the stuff you see in college that you don't see in the NFL. The difference in the hash marks is always a big one, but another one is obviously the QB run game, more a part of the NFL than it used to be, but it's still an issue. And this is actually sort of like this is both a QB read option with a little arrow route RPO attached to it as well. But you can see how, Caden Curry attacks the running back, and you scrape exchange with Peyton Pierce coming over the top. and then he's able to make the play on the quarterback. So, again, basic defensive concepts from the overfront against the QB spread run game. But I just think there's little variations within it that help minimize, personnel mismatches. And I think we'll be able to see that in like the pressures and the coverages as well here.
All right, this next one, we were talking before the show and you were explaining some different stuff they were doing in coverages. And my note on this play was just Caleb Downs doing Caleb Downs things. And frankly, I think there's probably some validity to both of what we said before about this one.
Yeah, sometimes it's easy to start overlooking all the things that Caleb Downs does. And obviously that offers you a lot of versatility. But just like from a big picture perspective, again, with the fronts, Ohio State, we talked about against Texas, played a lot of cover 3. In this game, there are a lot more cover 1 or man coverage with a deep safety. That according to Tyler Maines, again, they played it cover 1 a third of the time. So that's a pretty significant jump. And mixed in with cover 3 and then some cover 2. So again, still primarily like a single high middle of the field closed defense, but mixing in enough split safety concepts that teams can't know what's coming. It's not like the Jeff Hafley era where for as good as that defense was, it was single high all the time. And eventually, you get got on that. This is like, I think between cover 2 and cover 4, they're running that like, a little over 20 to 25% of the time. So you're still mixing it up, and there's a lot of disguise in here too. And so, but there again, I just like subtle things, I guess is the theme of the day for me. But like, so here, Ohio State's running cover 1. The first thing is, again, you see the disguise, right? Like Caleb Downs, to your point, he acts like he's ready to drop into a 2 deep coverage, right? So last week we showed Ohio State showed like what looked like cover 0 and had McClain drop way back from a wide 9 to play cover 2, right? And I saw that they did that again on Saturday. But here you're doing the opposite, where you're trying to show some cover 2. You're dropping down to cover 1. Caleb Downs has the tight end, as we talked about. But another little thing is like you have a deep over route here from the single wide receiver to the boundary. And so, but instead of just chasing that wide receiver in cover 1, they're going to trade it off, right? So the deep safety picks up that route, and then the backside corner becomes the deep safety. So again, just like little things that are like, you're trying to minimize, like every coverage, every concept has its weaknesses, right? And so, one of them is like cover 1, as Ryan Day often talks about, you want to run away from coverage. So you're just trying to minimize, how the offense's ability to do so by trading off routes. So I just think there's like subtle little things going on here that I think help protect against some of the weaknesses that we've seen Ohio State have in the past and some of their base concepts.
You've mentioned Tyler Maines a couple times on here. I just want to let people know, if you're on Twitter, you want to follow. The account is at @the_Ballmanac, BALLMANAC. You can follow him there. Good resource for schematic stuff and Ohio State stuff in particular. So you can find that there. Next one, play number 3. This is a good example of Ohio State bringing pressure from multiple different levels of the defense.
Yeah, just like on a sort of bigger picture note, I think there's probably, of anything, I guess, about the Ohio State defense at this point, maybe some consternation about the defensive line pass rush, maybe. I mean, I think they've been really stout against the run, like Caden McDonald in particular. Most notably when he caused the fumble return for a touchdown in the first play of the third quarter, has been really disruptive as a nose guard. Some of that is like the odd or the penny fronts. Like one downside is you're not necessarily in a position to get up the field. Like that's the pluses and minuses of a one gap system. When you're in between offensive linemen, you're just using those defensive linemen, tackles, ends, and contain sometimes, or keeping rush lanes. So I think it sort of remains to be seen, but you did see in this game an increase as well in the pressure rate. So Ohio State bringing 4 more rushers. And so, against Texas, it was mostly 4-man rushes, sometimes sim pressures like we talked about. This is actually a 6-man cover 1 pressure. But, again, like, so you're faking, like you're obviously walking up styles. or Arvell Reese, excuse me, he drops out, but then both Caleb Downs and Style come from the back or from the weak side. And so again, you're showing pressure, bringing it from different angles. But a little thing to note again is like when you have these 6-man pressures, right? You're running cover one, you're down a body if the back immediately releases. And so you see from Caden Curry to the field that what's called a peel technique. So he's responsible for if he sees that back immediately release, breaking off his rush and covering the back to the flat, which he does, and they limit it to a minimal gain. So again, I just think again a little small thing, right? But like these small things add up in terms of like playing sound defense and executing these kind of responsibilities, particularly if you're going to use a variety of pressure looks to make sure you're still sound in the back end.
And they use pressure looks in this last clip we're going to talk about. This is the Caleb Downs interception play. And this is one, Tony Gerderman and I did the game rewatch show on the Buckeye Weekly feed a day or two ago. And this is one where my jaw dropped when I watched this one, because Caleb Downs shows sim pressure enough to get the guard to come and try and block him, and then he drops, which gives Sonny Styles a clear lane, a clear run at the quarterback, and then because that, then Caleb Downs drops into coverage and somehow gets back there fast enough to intercept the pass. That it was just an incredible individual effort, and yes, it's grambling, but also that was incredible.
Yeah, and it's just, again, another example of like all the sim pressures that Matt Patricia is using, right? Because you're, again, as you said, you're showing essentially a 5-man front here, right? It kind of looks like the penny, even though you've walked up 2 linebackers, but you're covered up every offensive lineman. But those both Caleb Downs and Riley Pettijohn, they engage those guards, and then they drop as sort of underneath hook defenders' eyes on the quarterback. We've talked about that with that train concept last year with Jim Knowles that like to use with cover 0, where you're just sort of you're showing pressure and then just kind of dropping 2 guys in the underneath zone. I mean, the purpose of it is exactly what you see, right? So like as a quarterback, sort of the first rule you learn about handling blitzes is to throw it where the blitz is coming from, because in theory, that's where the unoccupied area will be. So that quarterback, he thinks he's got a slant route coming underneath the pressure. And obviously Caleb Downs, as you said, does an amazing job just in terms of athleticism, getting back and make the play. But the pressure works as intended, right? Because by faking or feigning that blitz from both Downs and Pettijohn, you lock up both those guards. So those guards decide they need to engage. That just lets, as you said, Styles come completely untouched through the A-gap, because the nose guard's using sort of a contained technique, pulls the center to the opposite A-gap, allows Styles to come untouched, forces the quick throw, and leads to the Downs interception. So pretty much like exactly what you're looking for when you use a sim pressure like this, and you're kind of dropping a couple guys underneath like that to keep eyes on the quarterback.
This weekend, the Buckeyes will take on the Ohio Bobcats. Obviously, this is not 2020 Alabama by any means, but it's going to be a team that's going to be a little more skilled, a little more exciting on offense. Their quarterback, Parker Navarro, can make some plays happen with his legs. Anything in particular you're looking for from Ohio State as they deal with, there was a little bit of a running threat each of the last couple weeks. Anything different from Ohio State this week, or is it you're going to kind of stick with what you did against Arch Manning and no need to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Ohio's head coach came originally from Washington State, sort of the Mike Leach air raid sort of protege, not protege, but, coaching tree, I guess, if you will, several rungs removed. So, you'll see lots of quick game, lots of RPOs. They'll run 4 verticals a lot of ways. So it'll be interesting again to just see, we just don't quite have enough data yet. Obviously, going through all the Tyler Maines, two games doesn't make a huge sample size, but could be a game where we see more of like the 3 safety Tampa 2 with Caleb Downs, the middle safety, take away some of those quick game and RPO throws. But probably, it seems to me that Ohio State's going to principally be middle of the field, as I said, covered team. But I think you'll see some mixing and matching to handle the variety of passing concepts that OU will use.
Well, we will find out how the Buckeyes will defend the Bobcats on Saturday night at 7. That game is on Peacock. So make sure you have your streaming platform subscription all set, or a friend who has a streaming platform subscription that you can go watch it at their house. That game, we'll be covering that game this weekend. And then next week, Ross will be back to break down what we saw from the Ohio State offense and the Ohio State defense against the Bobcats. And when he is, we will once again be sponsored by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.